Hello, everyone. This is another episode of Fire Breathing Rob. Please share these videos, subscribe, definitely like the video, and also, if you can, hit the bell so you can get those notifications when the new videos come up. This is all about, I should say, we interview people that do impressive things all over the country and now all over the world too. And these are people that do stuff in politics. They do stuff in general in life, sports, whatever it may be, to help the community, help the country, and even help the world. So thanks so much for listening. And again, please subscribe, like, and definitely share these videos to get them out to more people. And if you can, hit the notification bell on YouTube. So thanks so much. And I do have somebody that we've just talked for a little while, and it's been nice getting to know her. And this is Krystian Leonard. I'm sorry, Krystian Leonard.
Yeah, I'm really excited. Thank you for having me on. Thank you for reaching out to me. And I'm really excited to be here and to talk about different discussions and just have fun.
Krystian, can you tell us a little bit about Shining S.C.A.R.S? I know you did a TED Talk about that. We talked about that before the interview. But can you talk about that organization? What made you want to start it in general?
Sure. So Shining S.C.A.R.S is a 501c3 nonprofit foundation that I founded when I was 15 years old. What I wanted to do in life is to make people feel good about themselves, to truly have what it is called self-acceptance. I grew up as a child that had multiple surgeries. So I have many scars across my body. I have a 9-inch scar on my leg. I have a 7-inch scar on my back, and many in between. And I was bullied a lot. I was isolated from my peers in school. I was physically and emotionally, mentally bullied. I was mentally and emotionally exhausted. I didn't understand why I couldn't make friends in school, or why I was, sought out to be, someone who I really wasn't. And I truly believed everything that my bullies said about me. They called me ugly and freak and Frankenstein. I felt as though I would never really have a true friend. And I didn't know how to have that conversation with my parents either about what was going on in school. I didn't know how to, turn that reality into something that was positive. And it wasn't until I was in high school that I realized I could do something about my past, and that I could turn it into a message to benefit others, and to hopefully reach out to other students, and especially young girls and young women, and have them have the understanding that they are beautiful, and that they can still be successful no matter what their bullies may tell them, and no matter what how they are perceived on the outside. That something that is really important is what's on the inside. And I decided to found that nonprofit organization. I also wrote a children's book to go hand in hand with it. It's also called Shining S.C.A.R.S. My main character, his name is Eugene, and he is a little star that goes through an experience where he does get a scar. And so he has to accept it, and accept the journey behind it, and understand that it just made him stronger than what he was before. And it's something to be proud of with his friends. And at the end, my favorite page, it says, he talked about how it glowed, he talked about how it shined, and all his little friends said, look at mine. So the important message behind Shining S.C.A.R.S is everybody does have a scar, whether it's emotional or physical. Everybody, has some type of scar, and there's a story behind it. And you can either hide behind that story and feel ashamed, or you can learn to accept that story, accept your self for who you are and how you grew from it, and, hopefully become a better person, and share that message, and share your journey, and hopefully inspire others to do the same. And I've been able to do a lot of things with my nonprofit, a lot of exciting things, and hopefully we can get into that a little bit later in this conversation. But that's a little bit about it. I'm going to be turning 24 here soon, so it's been about 9 years of this, and it's all nothing but excitement. And it's definitely a humbling experience knowing that I'm out here trying to change the lives of others. And I do receive those messages back from parents and from students and young women when I go to do school visits and stuff. They find me on my social media and they message me and say, thank you so much for sharing your story. You know, this is mine. And I start that conversation with them, because we have to sort of normalize the conversation of being vulnerable and opening up to people, whether they, and to a lot of them, I'm a complete stranger. They don't know who I am, you know, and yet they have that urge of confidence, that urge to come to somebody and share, you know, how did they get this scar? How did it make them feel? And how are they feeling now? You know, opening that door and that of compassion and empathy and understanding that everybody has a story that needs to be told and that they can benefit from that. I think that that's really important and something that my nonprofit showcases every day.
Okay. So Krystian, with this, you know, you did start this foundation at 15 rather. That's such a young age where, you know, most girls are not mature enough to even think about these things. What made you want to start, even get the idea of that? Who even put that in your mind at such a young age?
Okay, so it's actually a really interesting story. I was always very shy, and I did not have a lot of self-confidence. I struggled a lot with, you know, looking at myself in the mirror and being happy with what I saw. I started on a little journey where I spent one summer and I looked at myself in the mirror for the first time and I called myself pretty. And that day I did not believe it, but I said it anyways. And I went on a whole year-long journey of telling myself these little compliments in the mirror every day. And whether it was that I liked my hair that day, which probably wasn't true, or that I liked, you know, my braces that I had or something, it could have been anything. And whether I believed it or not, I said it because it was starting to, you know, dawn on me that if I wasn't going to accept myself, how were others going to accept me? And if I perceived myself as something negative and ugly and, you know, unworthy, then is that what others are going to perceive of me? And it probably would be true. So the more that I, you know, started to accept myself in the little things, then I knew that I was going to be able to open that door to others and to be vulnerable in front of others and to truly accept, you know, their perceptions of me. And if they were negative perceptions, I could still close that door. I was trying to empower myself to just even open the door up to the possibility of being judged and accepting those judgments or dismissing them. You know, you also have to be empowered to, you know, shut those doors in your life. And a lot of times people don't have the strength to shut those doors. They just keep them open. And I was that little girl who kept those doors wide open. And so I wanted to change that about myself. And was starting the nonprofit, you know, it went back to me and my self-confidence issues. My mother decided that I should do a pageant. And she said, why don't you just do a pageant? You know, it could be fun. It could be this. And I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't know anything about pageants. What I knew came from TV, whether it was Miss Congeniality or Toddlers and Tiaras. And I was 14 at the time. And I competed in my first pageant. I had no idea what I was doing. It's quite a glorious story. I showed up in a sales dress from JCPenney's. I was wearing shoes that were 2 sizes too big. I didn't bring any makeup or hair products with me. I showed up in my Sunday best church outfit for my interview. And I ended up placing second runner-up at that pageant. And I have no idea how, but later it was because later I talked to the judges and I talked to the directors of that pageant, and it was because of my interview. People genuinely enjoyed talking to me, and they loved that I was able to just be myself with them. And that's something that a lot of girls aren't really comfortable with doing. And yet I was able to do it with them that day. And I think it was just because, you know, I had the concept in my head that I'm just going to try this and it is what it is. You know, I showed up and I looked all around me and all these girls were, you know, pageant veterans. They had everything. And I just thought, well, I'm just going to have fun. I know I'm not going to win, but at least I could sort of try to enjoy myself today. Mm-hmm. And I, you know, became addicted after that. I was like, I love this. I love that people want to get to know me. I love that, you know, they're asking me questions of things that I'm interested in. And I love talking to all the girls. You know, they were really, really sweet with me. They shared their hair products with me and they gave me powder. They were very, very sweet. And so I wanted more of that. And then I got involved in the Miss America system and on the teen level. So I did a local for the Miss West Virginia Outstanding Teen Program. It was the Miss Morgantown pageant. And I didn't think that I was going to win that day either. I was so petrified that in my interview outfit, I was wearing a pantsuit. You could see my knees shaking. You could see my pants wiggling because I was so scared. But part of that organization is having a platform, which is something that you would advocate for that entire year. And I wanted to do mine on my scars. And that kind of came out of the blue for my parents. They were like, what are you talking about? Like, you don't ever talk about your scars. And I was like, I know. So I think that this is a good opportunity to open up those doors. And my parents fought with me tooth and nail, especially my mother. She did not want me to have, a platform about my scars, because in the past it had been nothing but something negative for me. I was always, ashamed of my scars, and she didn't really want me to, put myself in a position to be asked those questions and not be ready to answer them in front of the judges, or to end up being so emotionally drained that I would cry or, still feel bad about myself. So I think that that's why she pushed so hard for me to do something else. And I continuously told her, I said, no, it's got to be about my scars. And she said, okay, well, then you're going to have to do all the hard work, because I've looked out there on the internet and there's nothing out there for people with scars. And I said, okay, I'll do it. And being the hard-headed person that I am, I went ahead and I did it. I was filling out my paperwork. I showed up, and I ended up winning the Miss Morgantown Outstanding Teen title. With that came someone who is very near and dear to my heart. Her name is Meg Mullins, and she's actually on my board of my nonprofit now, because she gave me the idea of, you can start a nonprofit, you can write a book, you can do this, you can do that. And I soaked up all those ideas like a little sponge, and I decided to go forth and, try it all out. I thought, why not? Why can't I do that? Everybody else is out there doing something remarkable with their life, and this is something that's important to me. I think this message, could really reach out to kids. And at first I was just thinking in my community. I thought that I could make a difference in my community. I had no idea that later on in life I would give a TED Talk, that I would become a published author, that I would travel across the country and, win awards for speaking. And so it was quite remarkable now that I look back on it, how I was able to do all that. Why did I decide to do that? It was mainly just because I didn't want fame and glory. I just wanted to change the lives of others. And I wanted to start in my community. I wanted to start with those kids that were in my elementary school that I went to, where I was bullied. That was my main mission. I wanted to let people know that just because you have a scar or physical difference, it doesn't mean that you are ugly, or that you are a Frankenstein, or that you are not worthy of love and acceptance of others, and that you do have dreams, and you do have goals and aspirations, and you can definitely achieve anything you set your mind to, as long as you stay true to yourself and you continue to, be loving towards yourself, love who you are, look in the mirror and give yourself those compliments. Those are the things that I wanted to do as a teen. And, with that nonprofit, it was just opening that one door and empowering myself to walk through it. That was really important to me.
With the book that you wrote about children, what gave you the idea to write that book? Was it just something that after you started this organization, you said, hey, I want to do something that illustrates to kids and shows kids in a simple way what the organization is about and how it can help you just to come out of your shell and show that, I'm not afraid of a scar. I'm not afraid of, looking different or being different anyway.
So when I decided that I wanted to write the book, I was given the idea to write a book along with the idea of starting a nonprofit. And, I realized that this nonprofit was going to speak to many audiences, adults, teenagers, children, different people of different backgrounds and stuff. But I did want to have a simpler message for children, especially because, my journey with my scars started when I was 4 years old. And that's pretty young to, you know, endure something that could be traumatic or an accident that results in a scar. And I really wanted to be able to go into the classroom and talk to kids and help them feel confident at that young age. And I started thinking, you know, when I was little, what would I want to hear, or what was going to benefit me, or what would be the message that I could hold on to if I was that person with the scar. And so that's when I decided to write my children's book. I actually wrote it in my bedroom, and I presented it to my parents and my dad's best friend. He was over at our house visiting at the time. And I said, this is my children's book. And they were like, oh, okay, Krystian, good job. Like, what do you plan on doing with that? And I was like, I'm going to get it published. And they were like, what? They're like, how are you going to do that? I said, I don't know, but I'm going to get it done. And I was just that, you know, headstrong on wanting to help those kids, wanting to reach out that message. I was like, this needs to happen, and I'm going to make it happen no matter what it takes. I am going to spend endless hours on the internet, which, yes, that was such torture for someone my age back then, to spend time on the internet, to have some type of excuse. And so when I read my story to them, they all loved it, but I didn't have the character's name. Yeah, I didn't know what I wanted to name him. I knew what I wanted him to go through. I knew how I wanted the story to end, but I did not have a name at all. And my dad's best friend kindly pointed it out to me at the end of the story. You don't have a name. And I said, okay, well, then I'll name him after you. And my dad's best friend's name is Eugene. And so that is the character in my book. His name is Eugene. And the real life Eugene, he always tells me, he's like, am I famous yet? Did she make me famous? And he like always asks me those questions. And he's always been a really good supporter of mine. Him and his sister both, you know, they've donated to my nonprofit. They've gotten books donated to schools and libraries and to certain kids in their communities that definitely could benefit from it. So they've been really, really great. But when I wrote the book, I wanted it so that way kids at a younger age could benefit from the message, and it didn't have to be so dark and scary and filled with statistics and, you know, this is what could happen to you. I didn't want to scare them in any way, because, you know, my scars resulted in surgeries. I have a couple of them that were resulted in accidents because I was very energetic child and very clumsy at the same time. But I didn't ever want to scare them. I didn't want them to feel like something bad was going to happen to them. And so the story with Eugene is that, you know, he did have an accident, and he was scared to show his friends his scar and, you know, tell them what happened. And his mom had to take him to the hospital. And then he was, you know, nervous, had that conversation with her. And then she told him, you know, don't worry, it's going to be okay. Trust me. And the next day he woke up and his scar shined brighter than the rest of his body. And so he wasn't scared anymore. And that's sort of the message that I wanted to relate to them at a young age is, you know, things are going to happen, but it's how you perceive them and how you accept them is what's going to impact your future.
Krystian, let me ask you, how did you formulate the story?
I am very a creative person. Even as a young child, I like to talk and storytell a lot. And all my teachers told my parents when I was little, she's gonna be a writer. It was just a part of who I was. I've always been into, you know, the fictional stories, you know, the supernatural, anything like that. I was, of course, a huge fan of Twilight. I was Team Jacob all the way. And yes, I bought the new book and I'm reading it right now. I'm very excited. But I've always been quite a storyteller. I've always had quite the imagination, except, you know what? I never had an imaginary friend. And that surprises me a lot as an adult, is that I never had an imaginary friend, but I had a crazy imagination. And, you know, Eugene, the story behind Eugene just came to me. It was, you know, I just started writing and I started doodling in my notebook, my school notebook. And I just, you know, I had written some little stories in the past, but never really wanted to do anything with them. They just came to my mind, or I dreamt about them and decided to write them down. And I just fell in love with the story. I just started writing. I got it done in about less than 30 minutes there in my room. Yeah. When I decided to start sending it to publishers, my grandmother actually did some watercolor for me, some watercolor illustrations for me. I put together a snapbook. I sent that out to different publishing companies. I got told lots of no's, and I got lots of no responses at all. And it didn't really matter to me. I just kept sending them out there. I kept, pushing through. I was like, someone's going to say yes. And that's going to be the best day. And it was a few days before Christmas when I got my yes. Oh, and wow. I thought, this is the best Christmas present ever. And she's like, I'm very excited. I think you're a perfect fit for this company. And as I started working with her, there were, I think, 2 grammatical changes that I had to make to my story. And then she sent it into as an application for a Mom's Choice Award. I got a Mom's Choice Award in silver for my children's book. I had my launch in Book Expo America there in New York City. That was a very crazy experience as a teenager. I signed so many books. And it was actually really funny because even after I signed the books, I found my book on eBay. People were trying to sell it for like $20. Wow. So, like, it's signed by the author. I was like, oh, okay. This is cool, I guess. But it really is a very, very sweet message for those kids. And it's something that's really important to me. I even have little stuffed Eugenes that I take with me. So that way the kids can actually hold him and sort of visualize like he's a real person. He's someone to believe in. He's someone who's going to help me, accept myself when the days are really tough. And I accept many donations throughout the years. And I try my best to get these books donated, even if someone wants to make a specific donation and say this is to sponsor a book or this is to sponsor a kit. Then I make sure that I write very neatly or I print out labels that say this was made possible by, and I insert the person's name and stuff, just because it's important to give them that recognition that they believe in the message, that they believe in helping a child. And that's something that means a lot to me. There are many people who want to help others, and we just have to, show them how. And I think that my nonprofit is a way to do that, whether I'm visiting the Children's Miracle Network Hospital here in Morgantown, or I'm sending my book out into the Philippines, or to burn centers, or to, libraries and schools. My book has traveled to almost 30 countries now. And it has been a remarkable journey, and I'm so thankful to everybody who has either purchased a book or donated to my nonprofit, because that wouldn't have been possible without those people. And lately I've been working with a lot of young children and families who have babies with cleft palates or cleft lips. There is a lot of people who don't understand that those babies need a lot of special care, and that their surgeries are extremely expensive, and their scars are going to be on their face. And my very first scar was on my face. I went through an accident at daycare, and it was the day before Thanksgiving, and I had black stitches on my face, and I felt terrible about myself. At 4 years old, I felt terrible about myself. And it wasn't the physical pain that bothered me. It was, showing up to daycare and a preschool and having kids make fun of me and physically try to hurt me and my scar and my stitches. That was really an experience that I never wanted any other child to go through. And so the more that I can work with these other nonprofits and with these kids who have cleft lips or cleft palates, and the more that I can get my book out there and, even translate it into other languages for certain families, helping them share that message with their child to love their scar and to love who they are as a person and stuff. I think that that's going to do nothing but benefit the world later on, as long as we are teaching self-acceptance to others.
Before you go, Krystian, can you tell the viewers where they can find you on the web, on social media in general?
Yeah, you can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, my website, which is Shining S.C.A.R.S. You can just Google Shining S.C.A.R.S. and all of my stuff pops up. I would be more than happy to accept any friend requests, any follower requests. If you are looking to receive a book or looking to make a donation, you're more than welcome to, have that conversation with me. I welcome it, and I am excited to hear from you all.
I think it's amazing what you're doing, and that you started at such a young age of 15 to really push these things through. It's really impressive. I think that more people should be like you, men and women alike. So I thank you for doing what you're doing, and I thank you for your new job, and you're doing a lot of great things with that, and also for doing this interview, Krystian. It means a lot that you came on here. Thanks so much.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed this conversation, and I hope that those who are listening or watching, that you gain some positivity from it, and that you are going to be very kind to yourself and very empathetic towards others, and to, you know, start on your own journey of self-acceptance. What does it look like for you? But I hope that, you know, this conversation, you know, sort of empowers you and inspires you to go on that journey. And if I can help in any way, just reach out to me.
All right, most definitely.